Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Castaway Anime. I'm Neon Manta,
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
and we're not answering the call of duty or the call of the wild. We're answering the call of the night.
How long did it take for you to think of that one?
I've been starting this thing where I'm writing the intros before every podcast now.
Makes sense. So, I am oddly enthused to talk about this show today. It is the most excited, probably the most excited I've been for a podcast in a long time, because I have a lot of things to say, a lot of interesting thoughts to spill, a lot of interesting emotions and feelings I felt throughout the course of these episodes, and yeah. And I'm curious to hear your perspective, too.
Yeah, this podcast will be covering the second half of Call of the Night, episodes 7 through 13. Well, what was it? 7? No, 8 through 13, right?
Yeah, 8 through 13.
Yeah, 8 through 13. And I will say the second half is much better than the first half. There's a lot more to chew on with this, between all the new characters that were introduced to before get more fleshed out, and some even more new characters that we'll get into that may or may not just flat out carry the show. And if you want to help carry us to success, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, and head on down to the comments. Tell us what you think about Call of the Night.
そもそもあれほどの接触がありながら未だ恋もできないヤモリ君が吸血鬼になれるとは私は思えないな。
そんなことはな。
もしかして君、恋愛感情そのものが欠落してるんじゃないか？そしたら困ったね。100% 吸血鬼になれないね。しかしそれならよかった。私がわざわざ説得する必要はなくなったわけだ。でもあれ、一つ問題ができたね。吸血鬼の存在を知っている君は吸血鬼にとって危険な人間だ。君がきっちり人の道を生きるというのなら私は何でもする。
Tell us why we're all wrong and the show is actually complete garbage.
Believe me, if the show maintained the quality that it did from the first half all the way through, I wouldn't be as enthused for this episode as I am. I would say it's probably would have been like a 7 out of 10, maybe at best. But there have been some interesting changes to the narrative of all things, which I didn't expect to be so hooked into the story of the show. Not to say that it's particularly that deep or complex, but it's more that the characters that are being thrown into the mix here are adding some elements to the show that are elevating it into something from, oh, okay, this is a show that kind of has an interesting thing to say about, nightlife and how people respond to it, to this now ideological clash of differing races and how they can possibly coexist, or if they can at all. And it gets the brain a tickling.
You say it isn't complex. I would at times agree, but specifically episode 12, that had so much narrative stuff going on, just rapid fire, constant what the hell moments. I would consider that episode and some of the things it does with the narrative to be actually fairly complex.
There have been a few moments in the show that have caught me off guard, because I thought this was just going to be, a pretty casual slice of life show, just with a bit more a bit more vivacious, a little more risque, because it does seem to dip its toes into some themes of sexuality and sex. But no, there's some straight up oh shit, people are in actual physical danger at times.
So I guess I'll quickly recap what I was thinking during the first half of the show, which is if it had continued at that quality, I probably would have given it like a strong 7 light 8. And the main things that I liked were the vibes, I do like the characters quite a bit, but more than anything, I think what I appreciated about it was that it was always trying to say something. So many shows, frustratingly, just go through their entire run not really attempting to say much or do anything. And like any isekai in existence that isn't Mushoku Tensei or No Game No Life, and I guess ReZero. And I haven't seen this one, but Log Horizon. Anyway, I'm getting too sidetracked. The point is that there are a lot of shows that just go through their entire run being like, we're gonna be quirky but generic fantasy, and we're not going to attempt to say anything with that. And Call of the Night, despite being a slice of life, the genre that is, you could argue, is at least conceptually most
commonly
predisposed.
associated with fapping about and saying nothing.
Yeah, it is a very common association of the genre. But this, like, pretty much every episode of the show tries to say something throughout its run. And it's almost always something that gets the noggin jogging, that gets the brain a tickling, that makes you think about the world.
Sometimes it's not the most positive message to put out into the world, but we'll get to that.
I am very interested to hear what you mean by that. But
well,
anyway,
I hope when we get to that episode, that you'll agree with me. At least I hope.
All right, I'm interested to see where, because I genuinely don't know what scene you're talking about just from that description. But I digress.
So we open up back where we left off in the series to finding out that now we have a ticking clock element being introduced, where Ko has exactly 1 year to fall in love with Nazuna from when she first drank his blood, to be able to fall in love with her, or else he'll never be able to turn into a vampire.
That was such a great scene to come back to the show, too, because I think at this point it's probably one of, if not my favorite trope in fiction, which is the ticking clock. And the show that really red-pilled me on this was Assassination Classroom, because especially in the latter quarter of that show, it makes such good use of that premise that it's unreal. And my favorite thing about the ticking clock element of shows is that it is a hard deadline, not just for the story, but for the writer. The writer needs to do X amount of development within X amount of time, else the narrative won't continue. Either that, or they could intentionally make it not continue and be like, oh, you failed the ticking clock, F, rip, L in chat. But anyway.
Or they could be a lazy piece of shit and be like, oh, wait, we've extended the deadline. Or
okay, well,
like that
would be the moment I drop the show, unless they have a really, really good reason.
What if Ko just has the Ocarina of Time and just plays the Song of Time, lets him go back 3 days before the moon falls?
That would be funny enough that I would continue watching, because funny. But anyway, it's such a good narrative device, and so good for keeping the audience engaged, because in your ordinary narrative, you can theoretically extend it forever. Like, rom-coms are infamous for this. You can have the characters go on as long as you want without them falling in love. With Yofukashi no Uta in particular, they need to fall in love by a certain date. And
yeah,
it is
how long
a little
has One Piece been going on for now?
It is a little alarming that, like, we never get to hear how long it's actually been so far. And the narrative seems fine keeping that sort of a mystery for now. I imagine it's been like a couple months or something like that.
It has to. And I also would, not to mention, would have appreciated like an update to get an exact time frame of how much time is left on the clock. Like, if it hasn't been a few months, I'd imagine so. So instead of a full year, does Ko have like 8 months, 6 months left to work with?
This is the kind of thing that, speaking from personal experience, when I'm writing something, I physically cannot handle that level of non-clarity. Like, I'd have to put, okay, it's been exactly this many days so far, and we have exactly that many days to go. But it's more of a nitpick than anything, but I would like to know, okay, we have exactly until this date to go, until you have to fall in love.
And
But
then
either
we're
way, love that trope in fiction.
Yeah, we're also introduced now to finally like the last member of the cast from the opening, the childhood friend of both Ko and Akira and Mahiru, which he is, I think, fine. I think he's one of the more shallow characters that we've seen so far. Doesn't have too much going on at this point of the story.
This is something that I think is both interesting and also kind of sloppy about Yofukashi no Uta, which is that it introduces so many characters so quickly with reckless abandon, being like, okay, now there's this person and that person. And on the one hand, it gives you more things to look forward to, like, okay, all the characters so far are at the very least intriguing, and the show, every time it tries to develop someone, it makes them good. But on the other hand, it's like, but we have, a fair bit of dead weight in the cast. And I imagine that will be rectified as time goes on. I have faith in the story to make me not care about this in the long run, but it is still a thing that I can see bothering people. Personally, it doesn't really, I don't mind it too much. And it gives me more things to look forward to in the future when it comes to this story. But Mahiro, I would definitely agree with you. Not really the most in-depth character as of now in the narrative.
Yeah, he's just the typical childhood best friend. Hey, let's go live our adolescent youth and do, kid things. There's one thing about him that the show is kind of like keeping the cards close to its chest about, and it's about Mahiru has a crush on someone, and this is the way I perceived it, from the way they are framed it. I think Mahiru might be gay for Ko.
I didn't get those vibes, but I mean, judging from a certain revelation in the very final episode of the show, yeah, the show isn't afraid to make its characters gay.
Well, I wouldn't say it was afraid to make the characters gay. I just think they're leaning into Ko's lack of romantic feelings. Maybe the joke that I made from the summer cast about him being too arrow ace to fall in love with Nazuna was more truth than I initially thought.
That could actually be the case, yeah. I didn't get gay vibes from Mahiru in particular. The main joke with Ko and Mahiru's interactions, and Akira points this out frequently, is that all of their dialogue, at least in her eyes, is super corny. Let's make good childhood memories. Let's have our fun, youthful
and yes,
high school
and what is
days.
yaoi but nothing but corn?
I do find Mahiru's, I keep on saying Mahiro, but Mahiru's dialogue entertaining on that front, where it's like Ko looks up, because at first, okay, so the way he's introduced is that Ko's trying not to catch his attention, and at first I thought, oh, so this Mahiru dude is super outgoing, and Ko
he's out of my league.
No, I didn't actually think it was that. I thought it was going to be that Ko doesn't know how to tell him that he doesn't want to talk to him, because, he's more reserved. But it actually turned out that Ko...
I don't think it's not like that he doesn't like Mahiru. It's just
No, it's the opposite, which is that Ko actually really respects Mahiru.
Looks up to him as kind of like a role model.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was going to be. But in actuality, no, Ko really does enjoy talking to him, and it was just awkward because they hadn't talked in so long. He was like, how do I approach him?
Well, it's just that if Ko just fucking met up, grew a pair, and just realized that he has people out there that look out for him, then he wouldn't have to be so distant from his friends, which is some of the most fun had in the show is the scenes of them together. That episode where they're exploring the school and just hanging out, exploring the mysteries of the school, and all just bouncing off of each other. It was a pretty endearing dynamic. I especially love the scene where Mahiru pretends to be the ghost to tease Akira.
That scene
was
is
cute.
like serotonin inducing. And one of the shots I have screenshotted from that episode is of the three of them just laying down. It's like a top-down perspective. Their heads are right next to each other. They're all looking like they're having a ball. And it's like, yeah, it's the classic shot, but with these three characters, for some reason, it just hits a little different. It hits a little harder than usual. And it's like, whoa, these three are really endearing when they're together. They used to be childhood friends, and they're sort of getting back together for the first time in a long while.
The one fear that I had in the back of my mind though from that scene is that, like, thinking about are they teasing that, you know, maybe Mahiru has feelings for Ko and stuff like that. The one thought I was fearing was, are they gonna like fall for each other at any point? Like, is Akira gonna develop feelings for Ko or some shit? And like, because I really hope that is not the case in the manga, because I really want all of their I there's no way to say this without sounding homophobic. I really hope that I'm wrong about Mahiru and that all of their dynamic with each other is just platonic, because it's really nice to see just, you know, friends be friends without having to worry about like a possible romantic subplot getting in the way.
You know, there was an entire episode staked on just how refreshing it can be to have a friendship with the opposite sex without worrying about a romantic relationship happening. So I think you and the author might be aligned on this front. And to be fair, Mahiru is going after an older woman. So he is currently...
No, that's not the person he has a crush on, right?
No, it is.
Really?
Yeah. He told Akira.
I thought that was just a scene. I thought that was just a scene that that's just the scene where he went with Ko to deliver flowers to that lady who works at that bar.
No.
I thought that was just like,
so in episode 8, like no, it's more than that.
Like a pal.
You're forgetting a scene, which is that in episode 8, Mahiru told Akira that he is basically staying up all night in order to find this person that he's interested in, and that's his crush. And in episode...
Yeah, I thought that was Ko.
No, because they hadn't met before then. That scene happens before he realizes that Ko is... Ko stays up all night. The person he's seeing... He meets Ko because he's staying up all night in order to meet this older woman. And so there's even a scene of them holding hands when I'm trying to find the exact, because I thought he was
holding hands with just some other girl. I didn't think that was the same big-titted girl from the bar.
No, it's the same one.
It was the same older woman?
Yeah. He's chasing after this older woman.
But what about that one part where he's like, I'll come back over to the bar and like pay a proper visit once I'm 20?
I think that's just because he doesn't want to be seen at a bar when he's underage, because he's sort of upstanding.
Well, being seen outside the bar, I would say, would be kind of weird.
But he's not going inside.
The way he phrased that line made it sound like that he might have like known the woman through like a friend of like his parents, like maybe like a friend of the family or something, or he's just that sociable a guy that even women like her know him, and he's just generally nice to everyone and respected.
No, he definitely has a romantic thing going on with this older woman. He holds, I think it's the same woman. He holds hands with her in episode, I think it's 9. Might be 8.
Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna need you to do me a big favor here. I'll go while I fact check this for the sake of the podcast. You go ahead and talk about the next episode with Sari.
All right. I'm just gonna quickly check my notes before I make sure that there's. I guess at the end of episode 8, he ends up going on a date with Nazuna, which Nazuna is not having. And I thought that was a pretty endearing scene, even if Nazuna is kind of being an asshole and kind of not paying attention to Ko's feelings. But in the end, she does realize that, like, oh, actually, ending the date on this note is probably killing Ko inside. And so she goes back to his window at his home, and she takes him in his arms, and they fly through the night sky together, and Nazuna's like, yo, we do this every day. Is this, if this is what you had in mind for the date, we kind of do, we go on dates every day, man. And so I thought that scene was endearing and sort of rectified Nazuna being a bit of an asshole to Ko, and just a great way to end the episode. Okay,
I fact checked. This is definitely not the same woman because
it's not the same woman.
Shorter than him and also young, as old as he is.
But I know that he was looking for some older woman in the night. I distinctly remember that.
I'm gonna do one of the forbidden jutsus. I'm gonna go look up his character profile on his wiki and see if there's a spoiler about him. I'm doing it. You can try to stop me, but I'm doing it.
Okay. The forbidden magic.
Where is this?
I could have sworn he was going after some older woman.
I don't remember. I feel like I would have written that note. Wow, he only has one favorite on Mal. You hate to see it.
Here, I'm going to episode 8 because that's when I remember it. He was talking to Akira at the beginning of the episode.
I swear to God, from the way he phrased it, it was like okay, childhood friends, da-da-da-da-da. It's a spoiler warning for the manga, I guess, if maybe. Okay, here we go. Mahiru
is this something I should hear?
Love with...
Don't tell me who it is.
Okay. I will not say who this is. I will say this is a character that has not shown up in the anime.
Okay, here. I'm looking at... We can cut this up in the actual podcast if we need to, but like I'm looking at the episode 8 right now. All right, so episode 8, there's this person I like, and Akira's staring at him. That's kind of corny. Say what you want. Apparently, this person can only make time at night, so that's why. It's someone older.
I thought that was Ko. And that there's something older thing was something that like Akira said. Yo, they're childhood friends. What do you mean he hasn't met Ko yet? He's probably just like... maybe he was trying to find him in the night, huh? You ever think about that?
But he doesn't know Ko only goes out at night right now until this scene. At least I think, doesn't Akira tell him, like... Or no. He says that he hasn't seen Ko around at school yet. Or recently. Yeah, he says it sort of offhanded. I mean, I guess you could get the implication, but I thought it was, like, an older woman.
I am quite positive that the character that I'm looking at on the wiki right now has just straight up not shown up in the anime. And going off of Google Images, this is very accurate. Okay, yep, so that is the answer to the question. It's just not a thing.
Okay, my mind is getting twisted into pretzels. I think I ought to abort mission before it implodes completely.
Yeah, let's segue back into talking about the actual show proper. You know, Ko is out here trying to figure out what it means to be in love, but Nazuna can't help with that beta shit, you know? She's too busy mining diamonds.
Oh, yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so...
She probably actually wasn't playing, like, Minecraft, but I just like to imagine that she was, and if I know that if my if my partner at the time fucking like shut down my computer while like before my diamonds could like save to my Minecraft server, it's done. Like we're done. She's her ass is going to the streets.
To be fair, I was calling Nazuna an asshole throughout me recounting the episode, but Ko was foul for that one. He was absolutely in the wrong there. He absolute monster.
I will say though, what kind of alternate timeline is this show living in where she is clearly playing what is like a PlayStation 1, or at least the console she's playing is very clearly modeled after a PS1, yet she says that these more recent consoles have autosaves when PS1 gamers know, even PS2 gamers know, that shit don't autosave. You gotta manually do that shit.
I did notice that, and
they're either living in some sort of weird
humorous
past or also weird future.
To be fair, this is a world where vampires exist, so it's not too far-fetched to think a PS1 could save.
No, I can buy the vampires, but a PS1 autosaving, that shatters my immersion completely.
I think that it's just supposed to be a representation of an unknown console, even if it's so obviously a PS1. That's
if you get
the
a
thing we're
model
supposed
after
to
a retro
believe.
console, you gotta give it retro console limitations.
I do agree with you.
Otherwise, why not just make it like model after a PS3 or some shit where Minecraft was actually on it?
Yes, I'm just gonna play Minecraft on my Nintendo 64.
Low key, you might be able to do that.
Although actually,
the draw distance is gonna be shit, but you probably could.
Although Minecraft this is off topic, but Minecraft barely runs on laptops nowadays. The newer updates are stacked.
My only favorite reference of playing Minecraft is on my PC, so I wouldn't know. My PC's kind of beefy.
Mine is $500, a pile of garbage, and it can barely run Minecraft.
Well, that's enough getting sidetracked with the fictional capabilities of a fictional console and a fictional vampire TV show.
We can't help but nitpick these things, viewers.
Now we got to move on to cuck shit. With the next episode. Next episode was the one that like got me to go from this is a fun show, this is a decent show to just like let wash over you and like live through, and you don't have to pay too much attention to it. No, episode 9 is where it becomes I'm in this and I don't like it. This show is holding a mirror up to me right now, and I'm like, no, I denounce the person that is in this mirror right now.
Oh no, the dark side of Neon Manta 2-hour video essay based off of his experience watching Call of the
Vice.
Night. Yes, by Vice. I completely agree. So episodes 9 through, I'd say 12, although 12 does sort of lead into episode 13, but I'd say those are sort of like, almost like self-contained stories in a sense. They all follow generally the same plot line or theme, and I think that's when the show really hit its stride. So the first half of the show, or I guess first almost 2/3 of it, something like that. I can't do math that quickly, but that was like me vibing. This is me being truly invested. And at first it was almost like sort of whiplash, because I was like, I'm really, really vibing, and I can't understand why. And on the one hand, I think it's partially because of the one-off stories just being really good overall. But the second part, I think, and I only realized this at episode 9. So we often talk about things being crunchy core or neon manta core or whatever, basically things tailored to our coded, whatever phrase you want to give it or whatever. This is the most crunchy coded show in existence. Save for like Monogatari. Yeah, except for Monogatari. This is one of the most crunchy coded shows in existence. So here's I'm going to try to explain what makes a crunchy coded show. It needs to be a slice of life. It needs to have many attractive female characters.
It's gotta have at least one vulnerable lolly.
Does this show have a vulnerable lolly?
It does not, which is why it's not actually the most crunchy coded show in existence.
Oh yeah, that's why Monogatari clears Yofukashi.
All it needs, it needed Midori to be more like a Haran-san, and then it would be 100% crunchy coded.
Yes, but this is the part where crunchy coded shows get very specific, which is that it needs to be a slice of life, but it also needs to have a lot of like weird stuff on top of it. Just general weirdness, preferably philosophy on some level, even if it's just pseudo philosophy that no one cares about, because I care about it. I am the one person who cares about it except for every other Monogatari fan. And you can see this in a lot of my favorite shows. Just slice of life with weird stuff on top. Preferably either philosophy or trying to say a message. Like Dragon Maid, sure, that wasn't as philosophical as something like... I mean... Actually, now that I say that...
Dragon Maid gets more introspective.
Yeah, Dragon Maid is very introspective, to be fair. And that's a big reason why I like it. That's why it's crunchy coded. Monogatari, sure, arguably not a slice of life, but it's also tons of characters talking around, like having ordinary conversations, just having banter. So it sort of replicates that feeling, even if I can see the argument being made that it's not a slice of life at all. So still crunchy coded, and this... Every episode is trying to say something, have some kind of message. It's got vampires. It's got the wacky directing of Tomoyuki Itamura, which, on that note, the directing got, like, so much more Monogatari-esque as it went on. The first episodes, I mean, sure, the night is colored weird, and that will immediately stand out to literally everyone with human eyes. But starting with this episode... it gets so Shaft-esque that it's uncanny. It is literally uncanny.
I mean, yeah, the what was it? Episode 10? No, not 10. 11 is when we're introduced to Anko, and that's when it becomes like, oh yeah, you could tell a guy who worked on Monogatari directed the show, because we got very, very Shaft / Monogatari-esque background art of like the sky is a weird shade of orange and the buildings are just silhouettes, and the only thing
I sent you that exact shot, and my message attached to it is, you can really hardly tell that someone from Studio Shaft directed this. The influence is really subtle and minimal. It's just so incredibly difficult to tell, man.
The two characters and like the bridge that they're on are the only things that like exist really within the shot. And Anko in particular gets a fucking awesome introductory shot of where at first the only light source in the shot is her lighter, and then the screen darkens immensely when she shuts it, but then it lights back up when she takes a puff of her cigarette.
Not gonna lie, I think I have like that entire sequence screenshotted it in like 4 or 5 different images.
Yeah, I just mashed the control alt print screen button on my keyboard.
I do not blame you. It's such a cool sequence, and like the specific directorial ticks I noticed in this one, the color changes were always sort of there with how it colored the night, but here, starting with this episode in particular, the show is is willing to completely destroy the fourth wall, in essence, in order to change the colors apropos of nothing except to heighten the emotions of the scene. Where, there's this one super intense sequence.
I wouldn't call it 10. Fourth wall breaking. I would just say it's just a stylistic, artistic direction to.
I'm trying to find the right words for it, where it's like
it's a directorial choice.
Non-diegetic. Yeah. There we go. Like
the world isn't actually becoming pink when the series I'm just gonna go kill this guy now. But it serves as a dramatic shift of lighting to mirror the dramatic shift of mood that Seri is putting the scene in.
Yeah, there are a huge amount of non-diegetic uh, lighting switches, and even some. I mean, the show has always sort of played with like this is like you can explain why the lighting is like this, but at the same time, it totally wouldn't be like that in real life. And here, it's willing to just go all in on just changing the colors for no reason except the emotions of the scene, which is a directing choice I really love.
Damn, you're gonna love JoJo then.
There was some of that in Stone Ocean, wasn't there?
Yeah, and
And
there's a lot more of it in like the early parts.
And another thing I really like, so I'm gonna be real with you, Yofukashi no Uta, past the first 2 episodes, kinda doesn't have the best animation for the most part. There are certain sequences that really stand out, but otherwise, it is kind of just your average, sort of, I wouldn't even say low quality, but like minimal animation adaptation.
Yeah,
But
I wouldn't
Shaft-
call it. I wouldn't call it a moving manga, but you could tell exactly when Lidenfilms is putting in the effort into an animation cut, and when they're just being like, "Yeah, let's just go through the motions."
Yeah, but Studio Shaft. All right, so Studio Shaft is notoriously under-budgeted and understaffed with notoriously tight deadlines. So the people who work there have become masters at covering up their lack of budget and time with style. And this show does exactly that. First of all, with the lighting, like I already mentioned, but also with one of my oddly favorite directorial ticks of Studio Shaft, which is where they take a character still and just move the camera or move the still and like shake it back and forth or whatever. Just focusing on a character's head and shaking the camera. And that's one of the best ways to cover up the fact that, hey, this character ain't actually moving all that much except for
It's
lip
the
flaps
illusion
vaguely.
of motion.
Yeah. And it really makes an otherwise not very animated experience for the most part stand out a lot more. And I also love like the smash cuts to just character PNGs on these non-diegetic backgrounds, mostly dotted and patterns, used to often show like a shocked character expression. Sometimes the character, like the camera loves to get really close to Ko's face to show a shocked expression while also completely changing the coloring and like only showing the outline of his face and have it colored like one example that stuck with me is like dark blue background with electric yellow outline of Ko. So all of that stuff makes it just a really engaging viewing experience, and I love that Tomoyuki Itamura is leaning harder in to his Shaft leanings. Good stuff.
10 out of 10 sentence. He's
Yeah.
leaning into his leanings.
Yeah. I'm very bad at talking off the cuff in case this entire podcast wasn't evidence enough of that.
All that with the animation and the directorial work of who the fuck directed the show again?
Tomoyuki Itamura.
Yeah, and he worked on several Monogatari shows. It becomes very apparent definitely halfway through the series, especially with the introduction of Anko, who is literally pretty much a Monogatari character.
Yeah, that she could absolutely be a Monogatari character now that I think
actually,
about it.
here's the best way I could describe her. It's a Monogatari character if it was written by Coolkyo Shinja.
Fair, completely fair.
I like one of the earliest vibes I got from looking at Anko was that like I'm looking at the hair, I'm looking at the eyes, I'm looking at the glasses, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is this is Coolkyo. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is like the avatar that Coolkyo uses for his like self-insert stand-in and his caricature that I think is also a character in I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying.
Yeah, I think Coolkyo's caricature is like glasses on, at least his profile picture on Mal.
Got literally the same trench coat.
Yeah.
All she's missing is a little beret.
So I guess we've got sort of skipped over episode 10 here.
Well, we'll go back to episode 9 and 10 because I want to dedicate more time to both of those episodes. But while we're talking about Anko, goddamn, does she carry the show for me? Not to say that all the other characters, not to say that all the other characters are bad, but all the other characters aren't Anko. So like, what do you want me to do?
It is startling how quickly the show got me completely invested in Anko. Literally, introductory episode, by the end of it, she was in my top 3 characters, no questions asked. And
she is my favorite character from the show because she is the villain that the show deserves.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not entirely sure if she's my favorite, but it is such a close match. She probably
who else competes?
I'm thinking Ko and Nazuna just because we've had so much time with them, but we'll inevitably get more time with Anko, and I can't help but think that when we do, assuming this gets a season 2, although I'll probably just read the manga if it doesn't. But anyway, like as we get more time with her, I think it's going to become very clear that I think she's just going to clear everyone. Because I've been ranting to group chats and on Twitter just constantly ever since her introduction, just in all caps, she's so cool.
Well, all right, before we dive into her character, I just want to go on this little diatribe real quick. Why is smoking so gross in real life, but so cool in fiction?
You know, it's difficult to say. I guess in fiction,
why is it that when I inhale the secondhand smoke of a cigarette, I am disgusted and put off by the smell of tobacco? Yet when I see, specifically women, when I see women in fiction with a cigarette in their mouth, I'm like, oh, she's so fucking cool.
I guess the reason is that it gives sort of like an almost carefree, breaking the rules sort of vibe.
It definitely lends them a bit of like it adds a bit of edge to them. Not to say that inherently. Well, I guess I would make the argument that smoking is edgy because, like, you are just doing something that offers you only like a fleeting momentary high of, you know, maybe like a dopamine rush, when in exchange you are destroying your lungs. You're just putting the worst fucking possible chemicals and shit and turning your lungs to like discoloring them to actual blackness. So it's not even like drinking, where yeah, you can fuck up your liver by drinking, but only if you like do it in such detrimental excess that like it will actually kill you. Whereas if you only engage in it, you know, in moderation, like even if you do some minor damage to your liver, it is physically designed to filter out the bad juices and repair itself in the event that it would ever to be damaged.
I guess you could call killing yourself slowly edgy. Odd description,
what else?
But
what is the other purpose to smoke for other than to look cool? Because I think smoking is inherently like, if a silhouette is made, like a silhouette of a person is made just kind of inherently cooler when they have a cigarette in their fingers or their mouth.
I would definitely agree with that.
Smoke is coming out of their mouth.
Something I really like about the smoke coming from her cigarette in this show actually is that it's
very
often
stylized.
Yeah, very stylized. There's this one top-down shot of
where it's like in a
Ko
perfect
and
swirl
Anko.
around her.
Yeah, it's like this downward spiral almost. And it's
Very,
so cool.
I made sure to take note of that because like, oh, it's just like even the way she smokes is cool. Like obviously it's like not realistic to how smoking works in real life, but that's why it's an animated medium. It's just a visual medium to make her look cooler.
This is the show that turned nighttime purple. I'm pretty sure smoke can make a downward spiral for no reason other than it looks cool.
And to answer my own question, I find that smoking is most attractive in fiction, as opposed to real life. The same way, you know, violence in fiction, is more fun to engage with or tolerable to engage with, because you know, I can play Doom Eternal till my hands fall off and my fingers are reduced to bony nubs, but I will never get tired of, you know, jamming a shotgun barrel inside the mouth of a demon and pulling the trigger. But if I were to try to do the same thing to a human being, I'd be like, ugh, hula, 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 you know?
Yeah.
'Cause, you know,
that is actually a good point.
It's the engaging in the fantasy that that allows like the spice of fantasy that gives it the attraction, the appeal. Whereas, you know, when you snap back to reality, oh, there goes gravity, and then you realize, yeah, this would be horribly detrimental to most everyone involved if I were to try to engage in this in real life. Good thing this is not real life.
All right, so real quick, this is completely off topic, but when I posted a picture of Anko into the group chat, one of the members said, not hot D-. What do you think of that?
Kill them.
That is exactly what I thought.
I take back what I just said. Kill them in real life with a gun.
Yes. That'll be fun. That'll just be a joy.
Bruh, how can you look at this? I was almost gonna say Tumblr sexy woman, but no, that would imply that she is comparable to the Tumblr sexy men, and I would never stoop so low.
She's just so cool.
She's got the fucking trench coat. She's got a turtleneck. She's got the glasses. She's got the simultaneously put together yet unkempt hair. She's got the fucking weird half fingerless gloves. I don't quite understand the purpose of that, but it just adds to her for some reason.
It just looks cool. That's the only explanation you need. It just is cool.
I love that the reflection of her glasses sometimes covers up her eyes to make her look more almost like a mad scientist.
This is sort of almost another Shaftism where they'll color in one of the frames of the glasses in order to obscure one of her eyes, but keep the other eye visible. And Shinbo shows do that constantly. I think there's only one frame like that in the show, but I caught it. I know where you got that from, Itamura.
She's got the tired bags under her eyes.
Like, I love her personality too, where she's just, it's
a
almost
massive
like
fucking troll.
Nazuna, but on drugs and turned up to 11, where she's just
like, I think what makes her most appealing is that in a show, in a universe full of like eccentric vampires, she's an eccentric human.
She's, everything she says feels vaguely combative, yet at the same time so friendly in an odd way, where it's like she's constantly challenging you to punch her in the face, but also it's totally just a joke, man, and we can chill while I just smoke my cigar looking cool and just chill at the bar together.
Yeah, I love how she's like is willing to just talk directly with Ko, when at this point in this narrative they are pretty much protagonist and antagonist. Like, I think she is being set up to be, if there were to be like a primary antagonist or a big final boss villain of Call of the Night, she is it, because Anko is a vampire hunter and just uses like the private detective thing as a means to this end. And you were talking about shows that are crunchy coded and neon coded. What makes a neon coded show is when two characters, usually the protagonist and the antagonist, clash not just physically but have an ideological clash. That is what I value and look out and seek out most in fiction, is when two ideas are being like brought to the forefront and might even be just straight up diametrically opposed to each other, yet you can hear both sides of the argument. It's not just a, oh, I'm going to blow up the world because I fucking feel like it, because it's just what I do. And the good guy's like, no, the world is cool, don't blow it up, dude. No, that's that weak ass shit. I want the good kush. I want the actually vampires have nothing to do with being humans because their very existence is inhuman and therefore unnatural for them to be, you know, doing the dirty, getting their business all up in our business. So it is the morally right thing to just kill them all and keep them out of human business to keep humans from suffering. Whereas Ko is like, no, I have proof that there are vampires that are able to coexist with humans, and they are, you know, they respect them, they can live amongst them without causing trouble. So your way of just like treating it as a misfortune all across the board is just wrong. And you know, both sides have their points, and both sides have their weaknesses and their arguments, and that's why she is my favorite character, because when she and Ko are having the clash of ideals on whether or not vampires should be allowed to exist and coexist with humans, that is when I am most hyper focused, laser direct onto the show.
I absolutely agree, and you were talking about how you like ideological clashes.
I also like it when
than...
ideological clashes are done through physicality. Well, like a fight scene. This show only has like one fight scene and it lasts for a minute, if even. But this show ain't about that. But what's cool about, what elevates a fight scene to me is that knowing that there is an ideological clash behind it. So, it's not just, a match of fisticuffs. There's like a reason these people are fighting for a cause. They're fighting for what they truly believe in. And it helps to elevate what would just be, a cool looking fight scene into something so much more.
So here, because I've talked on and on about how I don't really like fight scenes in fiction for the most part, with some exceptions. To me, like, my ideal show, oddly enough, is one where the villain and the protagonist have a 15-minute conversation before fighting, and then the fight lasts like 3 minutes. Oddly enough, my favorite kind of conflict.
Oh my god, you're gonna love My Hero Academia.
But anyway, this is like perfect to me, because they all of the sort of friction between them is just it's done through dialogue and then one action when Anko calls the police on him. And there's the one shot that we both probably remember very clearly where it's just eerily well animated for no reason, where Anko's going on about how, hey, this vampire stuff, you want to become a vampire, but you spent this long trying to fall in love with Nazuna and you haven't done it yet? What's wrong with that? Do you think you'll ever become a vampire? And it's just so much swagger, so much eeriness in her facial expression and tone, so smoothly animated. Perfection. And that to me is like intense body language, tone, putting up the pressure through conversation, challenging the other person's conception of the world and making them panic in a sense from what you're saying. That to me is like the most tense sort of interaction you can have in fiction.
Yeah, that's why Anko is my favorite character in the show. It's not just that she is, the villain who is diametrically opposed to our protagonist Ko. It's also that she is carrying around this air of being a massive fucking troll, like the way she walks, the way she talks, the way she acts. That whole time when she's just during that animation cut where she's got the hands in the pockets, just like leaning side to side as she's walking forward, like, oh, there's no way you're gonna fall in love with her 100%, right? It makes my job so much easier because you're not even gonna fall in love with her.
Dude, I love it so much. And one of the most...
I love the scene where she, right before that, where Ko calls to talk with her about the vampire hunting, and she's like, oh, you finally decided to call me again, huh? You're finally ready to like have this illicit relationship with an older woman. And then Ko's like, no, and then she's like kind of actually insulted that, like, what the fuck, you don't want me? I was really looking forward to the idea of stringing you along.
I was literally about to mention that.
I told you the next time you call me, you actually try to hit on me.
One of the most hilariously characterizing bits of Anko's character is that, so various women in the series want Ko for different reasons. Sometimes it's to make him an offspring. In Nazuna's case, it seems more of like a friendship thing for the most part until the very end of the series. But for Anko, it's not that she actually is attracted to Ko, because, you know, that'd be pedophilia, that'd be wrong. She just wants to string him along. Her only reason for wanting him to try to do this illicit relationship is just because she thinks it'd be funny to string him along for 2 months. And it's like, God, that's so immoral, but so
asshole.
Fun. That's so immoral, but at the same time, if you did it, I'd love it.
It would be funny though. She'd do it for the Vine.
She is the type of person to get in court for something completely messed up, but then unironically say, Your Honor, I did it for the Vine, or I did it for the troll.
Your Honor, my client was schmoovin'.
Your Honor, it was just a social experiment.
Your Honor, my client is sick with it.
Your Honor, my relationship with a
she had that dog in him.
Your Honor, my relationship with this 14-year-old boy, I only did it because it was really funny.
Why don't they just use that in court more often?
You know, Anko has enough swagger and charm that they'd probably just believe her.
They also like to. There's a bit of a mystery surrounding. First of all, why she hates the vampires so much. We understand her reasoning, her ideological reasoning, but like we've yet to figure out why she came to that conclusion. Probably something to do with vampires' inner life. And,
I imagine so.
Yeah, and when she's able to get this vampire in the school to attack her and suck her blood, the vampire makes note of it that her blood tastes horrible, and it's the only time in the show that we've seen that a vampire has drank someone's blood and been like, ew. And they even make a note of it later from one of the vampires, I think it was Hatsuka, that is like, vampires actually know like frighteningly little about their own race. Like they don't even know if there's a concept of like good or bad tasting human blood. They just taste human blood as blood.
I think the exact line was like, we don't know what makes human blood taste good or bad. So it's sort of leaving the mystery up in the air for now.
The way that they were like specifically showed off, like you could see the vein in Anko's neck. I thought she was gonna like do some shit like, haha, I laced my neck with anti-vampire juices or whatnot, or like I had my blood infused with the blood of Christ or some shit. But no, the way she's able to kill the vampires is maybe has something to do with her blood, but the main thing that we do see is that she puts this silver ring into their hands and forces them to keep it closed in their hand, and then as the sun comes up, whereas we've seen before, we even made note of this in the last podcast, how vampires in this world are not inherently negatively affected by sunlight. They don't instantly turn to ash, but when they're holding this ring, it seems that they do become weak to that.
I find Anko's specific ideology of like why she hates vampires very interesting, because it isn't just I hate vampires for my vengeance. It's like she logically has an explanation for what she believes, which is that
Yeah, this teacher was living a horrible life for 10 years and in suffering, and would have died in peace if not for these humans coming in and being like, "Oh, let's dick around the school for fun, haha." And then they get attacked. Akira gets attacked by the teacher vampire and is about to get her blood sucked. If not for the for Anko showing up to save the day and putting him to rest. She doesn't like take pride in, or like she doesn't take sadistic pleasure from, you know, taking his life. It's more of like a noble thing that she's doing, or like she views it as a noble thing. She's almost like consoling him as he's, letting out all his frustration and sorrow, being like, "Oh, I've these last 10 years I was just supposed to die in peace because I would have gone 10 whole years without drinking blood and I would have passed, on my own terms." And she's like, "Yeah, I understand. You must have been living and suffering all this time, but now it's okay. I will end your suffering, let you die as a human."
although I do wonder if she'd get enjoyment from like killing someone who she sees as like an actual vampire, because she sees these vampires who don't drink human blood as people trying to be human, but like just physically not being able to, mentally still maintaining their humanity, and so she feels this sort of like sympathy for them. Whereas with vampires, the show sort of addresses the question with Anko's character that it's intentionally swept under the rug up until now for, I imagine, this moment, which is what happens to all the vampires who what happens to the people who get turned into vampire because they got tricked and fell in love with someone who then just ditched them. And this is
what if
one
they were
example.
Just got duped by Sari?
Yeah. And this is the answer, or one of the potential answers to that question, which is that they cling to their humanity, but unable to. They just, keep on thirsting for blood for 10 years, and then they die, and it's a miserable experience. They're constantly afraid of themselves, of what they might do to someone, of what their urge to drink blood will cause them to immorally do.
And that's what makes
this constant nightmare.
That's what makes the ideological clash so interesting, because Anko's got a point. We see through the first-hand example of what could happen to both a person turned by a vampire to live essentially hell on earth and just like be so afraid of themselves and what they can do, and also to other human bystanders like Akira, that if she hadn't shown up, she might have been turned, or everyone there might have had their blood sucked dry.
It does present like an interesting moral question.
Then we see Ko with all the other vampires like Sari, Nazuna, and Midori, and they're peacefully coexisting with humans without having to kill them. Some might be more eager to kill than others, but most of the time they're just chilling, coexisting peacefully. So we've seen proven case studies, but Anko's like, no, the very possibility that this can happen is too dangerous, so we just gotta kill them all.
I think if you ask my opinion personally, I'd say that vampires existing itself is not the issue. It's the systems that they have in place that is where they go wrong and are immoral, which is that for vampires, you're basically forced into a lifestyle of deceiving people, sucking their blood, turning them into your offspring, and then just abandoning them to do whatever, and presumably eventually eventually meet more vampires and have to follow the same rules as all the other vampires. Where it's like, that doesn't necessarily need to happen, because people like Ko and the one other guy who I forgot the name of, but Oh, Akko. I think is it Akko?
Akiyama.
Akiyama? Yeah, his nickname is Akko. Okay,
Akun.
Anko, Akko, Ko. Just want to point that out. Those are 3 names in this show. Well, 2 names in it.
His nickname is Akun. Yeah, when you say
Akun.
Akko, you're thinking of the girl from Little Witch
Okay.
Academia.
Okay, I messed that up. But still, a lot of similar names in this show. But I digress. There are people who want to become vampires, as evidenced by Akun and Ko. And I guess the ideal
And even, like,
ethical
what
way.
the fuck was her name? The office lady.
Yeah, she also sort of wants to become a vampire. And the ideal way, at least if you asked me, to run Vampire Society would be don't put so much emphasis on just deceiving people to make as many vampires as possible. Instead, find happiness in humans and vampires coexisting. And I do think that is what the show will eventually get at, because Ko's specific stance is they feel human emotions, they are intelligent, they are emotional, they can provably coexist with humans. And good message. Mucho like Ko is based.
Anko is able to get in his head though and makes him question whether he is to vamp or not to vamp.
That is the question. And
there's also an interesting tidbit of information that's brought up like throughout the series that I'd noticed is that and it got my noggin jogging on how we find out that like most of the vampires, if not all of the vampires that we've seen so far, have been turned by other vampires. We find out that Nazuna got turned. I think Hatsuka got turned. I think I'm pretty sure. Most of what we're led to believe is true. Every vampire that we've seen thus far has not always been a vampire. They just were turned into one. So that got me thinking. So if these people were formerly humans that got turned into vampires by other vampires, then at one point, when do we get to see like the progenitor vampires, like the people who were born vampires 100% and were never formerly human? Or is that not a thing? Is it like a Curse of Dracula type thing where instead of a vampire being born into the world, a human like suffered some kind of curse and then just became a creature of the night?
I wonder if this theoretical progenitor vampire would still be alive at this point, though. Because that might have been literal centuries ago.
Yeah, because they make it a point to say that vampires are, if not, their aging is slowed tremendously. They might just flat out be immortal.
I'm not sure if they're immoral. Did they ever mention, did they ever specify that vampires are immoral or immortal?
Well, Nazuna, we know for a fact, is in her 40s, but it looks like to be Ko's age.
I mean, yeah, I know she's 40, but like, did it ever specify she can live forever? Or is there any point where it says like how long vampires on average live for? I don't
think they flat out say they can live forever, but they definitely will live far longer than a normal human.
Yeah, that is like 100% confirmed.
So, with that all done, one last note about Anko before we move on and double back to the previous episodes. Gotta give a big shout out to the voice actor for Anko, Miyuki Sawashiro, I'm pretty sure her name is. She's really helps bring the character to life with the best voice performance in the show.
Oh, absolutely. Like, she nailed it. Especially episode 12 when she's trying to intimidate Ko with all that great animation. The sheer venom and swagger in her voice is just a delight to hear.
And when she calls the police and is like putting on that fake worried voice to the authorities while at the simultaneously just staring at Ko out of the corner of her eyes, out of her glasses.
So perfect.
Like so fucking like it's not even, she doesn't even have like she might as well have a shit-eating grin on her face.
Just everything about her character is so well done.
Like
And-
I love to hate. She's the perfect villain. You love to hate her.
I'm not even sure if I hate her. I just love her.
Well,
she's wrong.
You hate
but
what
I
you
love
hate
her.
what she's done. You hate what she's done to Ko, and like literally just straight calling the cops on him. But I would let her. I would let her arrest me. I would let, if I were a vampire, I'd let her kill me. Fuck.
I guess this goes back to when you said episode 10 is you and you hate it.
No, that's a different thing. When we're about to get to that. But and that was episode 9. Episode 10. If episode 10 were actually me, no, I would not be able to live with myself. I'd straight sooner neck myself.
Oh wait. Oh yeah, it is episode 9. Pfft, never mind.
No. By the way, what Monogatari character do you think Miyuki Sawashiro played?
I don't know.
Cause I was looking through her voice credits. Her credits include Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter, the main dude from, I'm pretty sure it's Mushishi.
Here it
And,
is. Miyuki Sawashiro.
Yeah, among others. And I'll just tell you now, she plays the hottest girl from Monogatari, Tsuruga.
Also one of the best voice performances in a show stacked with good voice performances. So, based.
Yeah, I just thought that was very funny that in literal Monogatari and Monogatari, but called something different, she plays both of the hottest characters in the respective shows.
Yeah, I'd say she's probably the hottest, honestly. She's so cool.
Now we can finally. That's enough Anko simping for now. I'm sure we'll get another opportunity.
When we get back to her, it will just be a never-ending deluge.
We'll come back to her at the end of the year when it's come time for the end of year awards, and we give Anko the antagonist, the villain of the year award that she deserves.
No questions asked, for sure.
But that'll be for another time. Now we gotta get back to cuck shit as previously promised. So how do you feel about Seri?
This episode definitely made her a more interesting character. So she's, I guess aside from Anko wanting to kill all the vampires, she is of the vampires seemingly the most ready to kill people. But it's because, so her whole dilemma is that she's bored of romance and constantly deceiving people. Which, by the way, more evidence to why vampires can be good, because not all of them enjoy deceiving people. And granted, Seri...
Was it necessarily that she was bored of, like, romance specifically, or did she hate the fact that every time she, like, wanted to turn someone into offspring, it had to be a romantic thing, and she was getting bored of it, that she was never able to, like, form an actual romantic partnership with someone and develop commitment issues because of it? And like she has a lack of meaningful personal connections with people. In her phone, she labels some of her contacts as person to kill time with.
I didn't even notice that, but that is great. If that that is amazing. But yeah, she is constantly going on, like, I guess the equivalent of flings, except like it's every single person she meets. She cannot form any long form connection. But then she finds this one human, and she just straight up becomes friends with him. But because she's bad at sort of communicating, she sort of unintentionally leads him on to think that he has a chance with her, and he starts to become romantically invested in her, when that's not what she wanted at all. She wanted just a normal friendship.
Yeah, and she's it's the way that she like causes Akiyama to feel that at first I thought it was just gonna be like the stereotypical, oh yeah, I've got so many followers and so many flings with dudes, and not all of them are sane or like socially responsible. For example, this stalker that followed us to the karaoke bar and is just like knocking on the door.
I really love the sort of, this is another thing I really like in shows where you think they're a one-dimensional character and then almost immediately the show completely interrupts your conception of that character by being like, oh, they're actually just a human being who thinks and acts like a semi-rational person, or at the very least someone who is irrational but knows they're being irrational and has at least some sort of almost sympathetic reasons as to why they act the way they do. Because like the way it's portrayed at first, okay, so the light goes non-diegetic, full bright like greens, oranges, reds. By the way, jaw-dropping scene for the visuals alone. I had my jaw to the floor, like, what the hell is even happening?
I thought something like when you shared that into the server, I thought that, like, this actually crazy shit went down, like someone actually did die, but I don't know, like I feel like you kind of overblew that one for me when I got to that scene. I was just like, oh. But now I'm like, yeah, it was cool, but the way you were hyping it up, I thought like bodies were actually hitting the floor.
All I said was, yo, what the hell?
Oh, goddamn, pink lighting? What the fuck? Never.
I mean, hey,
like
all
it.
you need to do to get me hooked on a show is just to change the lighting during a slightly tense scene.
Again, you will fucking adore the early parts of JoJo.
This does intrigue me more to JoJo's, I will admit. But I won't, like, I'd say it is a decently justified place to put the lighting when Yamori is literally, or not Yamori.
Ko.
Eiko. No, not Eiko. Hold on, who was it?
There's Ko, Akiyama, and Sari are the characters
Sari.
here.
Why did I say Eiko? I am genuinely brain
You were
dead.
thinking of Anko, but maybe trying to like develop a different name for her based on Anko's name.
I have no idea what's going on with my brain today. But anyway. And now I forgot what I was gonna say. Brilliant.
Damn. All right. Well, I'll just go on to say, what the I'm in this episode and I don't like it thing is where I'm a big enough man to say I'm not obviously never stalked someone when they're hanging out with someone else to their to where they hang out, but I have seen when Akiyama was talking about like trying to just be friends with a girl, but an attraction is developed, and the attraction to her it's kind of grows in a toxic, almost self-destructive kind of way, where it's like you sometimes you can't help, because most people want to just find that better half, just to find the one. But you got to make sure, fellas, this is for all the fellas in the audience, from someone who almost was there at that point. Let me help you be the guiding hand here. You can't let yourself think the dangerous thoughts that lead to the parasocial relationships. Like, the things that Akiyama was saying were like hit dangerously close to home. Shit like, I don't actually care where I rank among her friends so long as I get to see her. And it's like, damn, I've thought that before, but I've thankfully had the self-control to never let it spiral into things like, this is the kind of dangerous thinking that leads to shit like OnlyFans and Twitch streamer parasocial relationships, like bad, almost addiction relationships that might as well just be addictions.
Yeah, it's a scene that really hit me. It didn't really hit home in the same way, but it was definitely like, because I remember what I was gonna say earlier, which is that when the lighting goes crazy and you just see his handprint on the window and like his silhouette, you think this guy is like
You're
insane.
stereotypical stalker.
Yeah, stereotypical stalker, legitimately psycho and psychopathic. But no, he's
and
just
it
like,
is pretty very psychopathic behavior to do that.
Okay, it is not okay in any sense of the word, but at the same time, it is like he has an understandable reason to do it, even if it's not agreeable or healthy. And the show points out that, like, hey, this
it's
is
toxic,
messed up.
but it's like, he's also a messed up kid. Well, not even messed up. He's just a kid. He don't know shit yet.
And the end of the episode is him basically becoming a vampire at Sari's hand in order to basically just be friends with her, but like on the terms of being a vampire, where they can hang out. Like he's unburdened from his human life, so he can go hang out with Sari for most of the day and presumably have what is just a friendship. At least that is the vibe
the feeling that the vibe that I got from it was that it was like they enjoyed their friendship so much together that, because Akiyama was the first human that Sari met that she could, form a genuine friendship with and not have to like lead him on or like try to like act like a floozy to, turn in an effort to turn him into a vampire. But she's like, no, maybe this could be like an actual just human friend and I don't even got to worry about, trying to turn him. But she's just so bad at making these interpersonal relationships that she can't help but end up treating him the same way that she treats all the other guys, and it negatively impacts Akiyama. They make it a point to say that he had recently come out of a breakup with his ex-girlfriend, so there is a seed planted to be like, it's like the typical rebound syndrome where, you fall off the horse, but maybe because you still got that feeling of longing for a person, that now that Sari has entered his life, she is quickly filling that role in his head that was formerly filled by that ex-girlfriend. And the way I saw it is that now that they like have just let it all out in front of each other and have been honest with and genuinely communicated, they'll go on to be friends and maybe even a seed of like an actual relationship.
Possibly, if he gets less psycho in the future.
I mean, she was pretty... Yeah, she was turned off by the psycho behavior, but she was also genuinely sad at the prospect of saying goodbye to him permanently. Like, even when she's trying to be like, hey, what we have isn't very healthy, so we probably shouldn't see each other anymore. And then she thinks about all the good times that they had, and she's like, wait, why am I so sad? Why am I crying and like saying goodbye? Because she can't say goodbye because she just likes him too much.
That scene really, really hits. It's like, and she's trying to cut him off for good, but then just starts inexplicably crying and doesn't even know like what she's doing, and it's just like, oh, why is this even happening?
Like all of the things Akiyama says, stuff like, the times I wasn't with her seem to get longer and longer, and I think, what is she doing now? Who is she with? Who is she complaining about to me? And it's like, guy, like, stop it, fucking the Lidenfilms and who the fuck wrote this of Kotoyama. You cannot I did not ask to have this mirror put it in front of my face, being like it's demand, like, look at it. Look at, I want, like Patrick with SpongeBob in the theater, I want all of you to look at it. I've, once again, to reiterate, did not go through it to the same sociopathic extent that Akiyama did. But, sometimes the bad thoughts do come in. And you gotta develop the self-respect. If you don't already have it, you gotta find out how to develop the self-respect to keep these intrusive thoughts out, because fellas, Sari and Akiyama might have been able to work it out, and they were able to work it out in the end because communication is key to a healthy relationship, but it's important to not tie your ability to be happy exclusively to one person. That is the dangerous. I was a little worried when they were like trying to reform their relationship by the end, because I felt like that they were going to be sending out a dangerous message being like, no, it's okay as long as, you know, there's one's party benefits, then yeah, this kind of relationship is okay to have and not toxic at all. But I feel like they were able to just skirt the line enough to be like, you know, like this is one of the times where, you know, it does work out and you can see why it worked out because they communicated. But, you know, I feel like they also did an equally good job showing you, like, this is the kind of behavior that you should probably just avoid. Like, the thoughts that's why it hit so close to home, because it was a bad time ultimately feeling those feelings.
Yeah, I definitely think the show threaded that line well, especially in how psychotic he came off at first, because it's like, yeah, don't do this. And one more note I have about this episode, because, I mean, I'm pretty much done, but when Sari at the beginning of the episode is, you know, walking down the street, or I'm trying to remember exactly how it is, but like, she's on the street and sees Ko, she's like, Yamori-kun, and starts running towards him.
Gets the fucking knee of justice by Nazuna, the Captain Falcon knee smash.
That was like the most, okay. That reminded me so much of Monogatari and made me instantly love Sari's character, because that is literally an interaction that happens in Monogatari like every arc, where Araragi will see Hachikuji on the street, run towards him, and in the later arcs, when Shinobu exists, she will normally be there to kick him in the ass and be like, get away from her. Although, I guess the main difference is that in Call of the Night, nobody's about to get molested. So, you know.
I don't know, man. Sari got that dog in her.
To be fair,
Sari has already
she did
made passes at Ko before, so you know.
She was very attracted to the fact that he's so innocent about romance.
So yeah, it was ultimately a fine line that they were walking with this episode, and it was a treacherous tightrope, but I feel like they were able to pull it off by the end. Unlike the next episode, which I feel like is the worst episode of the show, and an actually dangerous message to put out.
Okay, I want to hear why you think that, because I didn't think that at all.
Okay, so the TLDR for this one. This is the fucking maid episode where Nazuna does us all a favor and puts on the fucking maid outfit.
I saw so many screen caps from this episode just
I did too,
laying around, and I was like, oh, I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, and there's this maid girl who works there named Arisa, and this is the maid cafe that one of the vampires Midori works at. I believe she was the one that you said was your favorite design because she had the long sleeves.
I mean, not anymore once Anko comes into the picture.
Yeah. When before Midori arrived, Arisa was the #1 most popular girl maid at the maid cafe. And then so Midori showed up, took her place as #1, now she's #2. And there's this problem that she has, that someone is taking inappropriate photos of her and, you know, sharing them around. And, you know, that's no good. If someone's taking pictures in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's no good. So, Detective Ko's on the case, trying to figure out who it is that could be taking these photos, and after a lengthy deductive process, they are able to find out that the plot twist, the butler was the killer the whole time. Arisa was the one taking the photos of herself, staging them, and spreading them around because she was upset that she was not getting the attention that she used to before, after Midori showed up and started taking it all away, and it leading to her doing very weird things like taking. They weren't the most risque photos in the world, but it's not normal behavior, I think, to pretend that you are being stalked by a pervert and getting harassed by having inappropriate photos of you being spread around, all in the name of getting attention. And the show then goes out of its way to be like, no, that's a form of attention. I don't think it's weird to want to have attention. Sure, maybe the way that you went about it was a bit off kilter, but at the end of the day, it's totally the same as like posting pictures to Instagram or something. People like getting validation and approval from strangers, and I'm just over here being like, there is nothing similar to posting your vacation photos to Instagram and pretending that you are being sexually harassed online for attention. Like, yeah, sure, if you boil it down, the end goal of maybe receiving attention might be the same, but that's like when you boil it down to the most base element possible. Whereas, and when you like think about it, vacation, like posting of your vacation photos is just like a way of being like, hey, check out all the cool stuff I've done. Where pretending that you're being sexually harassed and stalked by a pervert, blackmailing you with photos or some shit, being like, hey, look at this horrible situation that I've in actuality am making up, all in the name of getting the spotlight on me. But man, wouldn't it be like, isn't it awful that I'm in this predicament? Oh no, it's just the worst. No, stop.
I feel like the point of this, the way the arc resolved, was less to say these are exactly the same. It's perfectly fine, and more to say that, like, everyone does weird, messed up stuff every once in a while. Sometimes it involves pretending you're getting stalked by a pervert, and it's like, it's not necessarily perfectly hoity-toity, all okay to do that, but it's like, that doesn't make you a bad person, and that, accept that part of yourself, but also, like, don't necessarily replicate it and continue doing it.
I was gonna say, it almost came off as like not directly, but sort of indirectly encouraging it. Like, yeah, it's like wanting that kind of attention from people. It's totally the same as like, posting your pictures to Instagram. That's on the same level as like going to work at Hooters or like a strip bar or some shit like that. As like it feels like there is a dangerous lack of self-respect that I get that she lacks. That was the point. But like, it's going so far in a direction of like toxicity and self-destruction that it's weird that they're taking any. It's going so far in that direction that it feels damaging to take any kind of like positive spin on it.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. Okay, so the line that stuck with me the most about this episode is when I think her name is Midori-chan, or at least she goes by that in the maid cafe, where she says, humans are pretty much all sick in their own ways, We just have to learn to live with that. Which, first of all, Midori still regards herself as a human. What? So that's interesting.
I don't think that. I don't think she regards herself as a human. I think she was just saying that as a generalization, because I think she has an internal thought of being like, I'm kind of sick too.
Although, actually, now that I say that, I'm not entirely sure if the one maid girl knows she's a vampire, so never mind. It might have just
she does not know she's a vampire.
But anyway, that aside, it's like, to me, the message this show is saying, because she's explicitly saying, like, hey, this makes you kind of sick. You're not really right in the head to do this. But at the same time, it's like, all humans occasionally do stuff that is not entirely right. Sometimes we are messed up, and you gotta live with that. You're going to do things that are messed up in the world. That's, you should try to not do that, because that means, it's still a bad thing. You're still sick to do this. But at the same time, you shouldn't let it haunt you for the rest of your life. And that, oddly enough,
Yeah,
really...
I'm not saying that this is like, you know, the worst possible atrocity a person could commit and like beyond redemption. I'm just saying that this is a kind of behavior that the show is like strangely eager to quickly put a positive spin on without, you know, denouncing the intentions of.
I mean, to me, the whole terminology of saying, you know, you're sick, like that was enough for me to be like, okay, so clearly it isn't hyping
Yeah,
this
but the
up
way
as,
they
like,
say that, they also like apply it to Ko, and Ko's what has Ko done that is like on the same level of sickness that could be applied to Arisa? Because Ko has not done anything
here,
as bad as what
what
she
was
did.
the line when she applied it to Ko? Because I'm actually forgetting that.
The way that Ko is trying to fall in love with something about like Ko trying to fall in love with Nazuna to become a vampire because he's like bored of. I think she meant it in a way that he was trying to get that attention from her, or like becoming a vampire will allow him to get a kind of attention that he did not already have before. They were equating like sickness and the need of attention and like recognition from others, or at the very least one other person, as a sickness, and in that sense all people are sick. And it's like,
that wasn't really
I
the
just feel
vibe
like
I got. I feel like what she was trying to do in equating those things is that she was saying the core desire that caused you to do these things isn't necessarily entirely wrong, but the way it manifested is where you went wrong. Wanting attention from people, that's something that like most people want, but you did it to like a damaging extent.
yeah, because I was gonna say, like, if I were writing this I would have been like, this would have been the moment where, you know, maybe Arisa kind of realizes that, you know, maybe like while she does have this desire for attention, maybe she like realizes that, hey, you know, maybe I'm going about trying to achieve this attention the wrong way, and maybe this maid cafe is a toxic influence on me, and that led me to like I got so upset by losing my number one spot that I would resort to doing this. Maybe I got all my priorities out of whack, and so maybe she should have quit the fucking maid cafe and, you know, taken that time to reflect on herself, and maybe if she's got to get that attention, find it in more, you know, more positive, less self-destructive weirdo shit ways. Like, this is the kind of shit that if an online celebrity found out that this was that they try to pull this shit on Twitter or something like that, Twitter mobs would be like fucking tearing her apart.
Well, yeah, it's obviously an unethical
lends more
thing
to, like,
to do.
Maybe that lends more to like the nature of you know, cancel culture wanting to vilify people for doing popular people for doing a bad thing, regardless of the severity of the bad thing. But you know, that's a whole other diatribe.
I mean, it is fair to say that, like, hey, you want it to be clarified that, like, the character, you know, realizing that, like, hey, I went about this the wrong way or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, at least me personally, my experience viewing the show, I didn't really get any bad messages from it. My interpretation was always just, hey, fucked up thing, man, but also, like, it's okay in the sense of, like, everyone occasionally succumbs to doing this stuff, and while you shouldn't do it again, forgive yourself for it, man, because you're not gonna be bad forever. You know, you're not irredeemable.
It's just like, because that's the kind of what you just said is the kind of like advice I want to give to people who are addicted to like OnlyFans or donating all of their hard-earned money to their favorite Twitch ethot, and in the vain hopes of getting any kind of recognition from someone who doesn't even know them personally or even what they look like. Like, it's not worth it, fellas. It's not worth it. Yeah, you know, I mean, go outside and absorb sunlight into your skin, please.
I'd give that advice to literally every human being on Earth, because to live is to Like, to be human is to occasionally do things that are unethical. And more often than not, I imagine, something that is, like, truly messed up, that you done shouldn't have done. And for most people, it won't be on the level of a crime, but even still, everyone's gonna do something bad at some point. And I think it is, at its core, a good message to say, hey, dude, don't do it again, but also forgive yourself. Like, everyone is occasionally sick inside.
I feel like the way she would have forgiven herself is if she like quit the maid cafe to reflect on, you know, what like she needs to find a new avenue to acquire that attention, because clearly the maid cafe is causing her to develop these toxic tendencies.
I guess that is fair.
It is very clearly a not her continuing to work there is not good for her.
At the same time, if I were writing this, I wouldn't even necessarily have her quit the maid cafe, because she is very clearly a fan of maid cafes. This is something that is, like, she enjoys this at a core level. If I were writing this, what I'd do is probably, like, have her acknowledge that, like, this competition stuff is pointless. It only serves to harm me. I'm just gonna do this as, like, fun work hobby thing, and not, stop caring about getting this constant, like, needing to always be the number one maid, in essence.
Listen, all I'm saying is that all of the patrons that were depicted in the maid cafe weren't the most attractive looking men.
True.
So, I feel like we spent enough time on that. I think that leaves us just with the last episode after all this, where Ko, like, you say, you were talking about, how some people make mistakes, and, it happens to the best of us, and it happened to our boy Ko, who unfortunately, he was baited by the trap.
What scene in particular are we talking about?
The Atsuka?
Oh.
The actual trap?
Alright, hold on. I feel like we're going a bit too far forward, because I do have one thing to say about episode 12 on the whole, actually.
Okay.
It's more of a holistic review of episode 12, but it's something I absolutely need to get out of my system, because episode 12 is probably my favorite episode of the show. Like, it is so its main purpose in the narrative is to is to what?
I said it's definitely up there for me.
Yeah. It is, the point narratively is to continuously up the pressure on Ko, to just get him as close to freaking out as possible. And after the episode ended, I listed all the ones that I remembered, and I'm 100% sure I forgot something in here, but let me just list some of these out, all right? So the first thing it does to up the pressure is Ko's no longer sure if he wants to be a vampire anymore. B, it's possible to become jaded on the night. C, if he becomes a vampire, Anko will try to kill him. D, if he doesn't become a vampire, all the other vampires will try to kill him. And Nazuna. E, he needs to make a decision within 1 year, and it's probably already been multiple months. F, if he becomes a vampire, he'll need to trick humans in exactly the same way that the other vampires do, which may or may not be ethical. G, the police are fucking after him. H, he might never fall in love with Nazuna. Just the whole list. The whole list. Every single thing in this episode just is conspiring to make him freak out as hard as possible. It's tense, it's exhilarating, it's so much fun to watch. Anko is a G, and we sort of skipped over this, but Nazuna, so she's been hyping up the night this entire time, right? She's saying, night pill, take the night pill. But as it turns out, Nazuna had a bit of a night pill overdose. She doesn't really get the same excitement from the night as she used to. She literally says, like, the night isn't fun. Sorry I lied to you. Which, by the way, I put in my notes has to be the most author insert line of all time, where the way I sort of related to it or the way I rationalized it in my head is that Nazuna is sort of like a jaded anime fan, right? So when you've seen 300 days worth of anime, right? You've been doing this for a while, and you remember what made anime fun in the first place. You know how to shill it to new people. You know how to hype it up. This thing that has engrossed your life for so long. But at the same time, it's like you personally are still chasing the high that you got back with your first 100 days of anime. And you're like, oh, this isn't nearly as fun for me as it used to be. But you're sort of like still tricking yourself into thinking it's still fun though. I'm still engrossed in it. I'm still obsessed with it. I'm still invested. And I feel like Nazuna is the same way, where I presume as a teenager, she was walking around at night, taking the night pill. And eventually that caused her to come into contact with a vampire. And that's how she became who she was. And at first, I imagine it might have, terrifying, but at the same time liberating, where she was like, oh, I can roam free during the night. I can just play video games all day, like I wanted to this entire time. But then as she went on,
I don't mean to interrupt, but there's this one line that she says in episode 13 where it's like, all I do is go on walks, drink booze, and play video games. And like she says this in like a sad way, being like, man, this is all I do with my fucking life. Just but I'm over here being like, bitch, why aren't you my girlfriend right this second? Literally the three only qualities that they have to meet.
Based. And she doesn't really feel fulfilled anymore. The freedom, she's become jaded and cynical towards it, essentially. And so she meets this young boy named Ko, and they form this friendship, and she wants to give him the fun that she used to have. She wants, sort of like old veteran jaded anime fan getting a newbie into it and being, finding sort of this fun in introducing new people to the hobby, even though they're sort of cynical on it at this point. And Nazuna's the same way, where she's like, I used to enjoy the night so much, and I want you to find that fun too. But eventually, she has to tell him, like, nothing stays fun forever. If you do this all the time, it'll become normal, it'll become ritualistic, and you'll get bored of it too, just like I did.
It'll eventually just become the new norm.
And that really, it's a very interesting take on her character. And it's something, all right, so this is a bit of a tangent, right? But in fiction, something that really bugs me is when a character is supposed to be like many hundreds of years old or whatever, but they don't act like it. Like supernatural entities living longer, but not feeling like they did. Like in I've been killing slimes for 300 years and I maxed out my level. Like she has okay, so the time skip happens. She has the exact same personality. Looks the exact same. Literally nothing has changed. Nothing about her outlook on the world.
You actually hate Dragon Maid.
Well, in Dragon Maid, it's believable, but that would be too much of a tangent, so I'm not going to go into that. Like, in Dragon Maid, I'd argue they do act, like, there's enough to go off of that you can believe that they're hundreds of years old.
And also the fun of Dragon Maid is that they're taking these people who've lived for centuries and putting them in a world that is almost completely alien to their own.
Yes.
So it almost doesn't matter that they've lived for so long, which is part of the joke.
Yeah. In Dragon Maid, I buy into it. In I've been killing slimes for 300 years, I don't buy into it at all. I think it's dumb and stupid and doesn't make sense, and the show put no effort into making me believe that she's that old. For Nazuna, it's like, oh, yeah, of course she'd become jaded at this. She's been, like, presumably became a vampire when she was a teenager. At least that's what I'd guess. And ever since then, she's just been doing these sort of like, basically living the teenage dream while not being fulfilled by it. And that gives her character a lot more weight than I think it had before, and really contextualizes her history.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of of a bit of an introspective take that we're not used to seeing with Nazuna, who's mostly just, the almost romantic pixie dream girl-esque of how much he's able to be outgoing around Ko and just try to take him on all these different nighttime adventures to show him how cool and fun and based it is. But in reality, she had just forgotten the thrill, the thrill of the kill, because she's been doing it for so long, and now it's all she knows how to do, and now she's just bored of it.
And
I think my favorite way, you were talking about how Nazuna was kind of like Ko, like who had been just unhappy with her life at the time, presumably before she became a vampire, and I feel like that was further reflected in the George Lucas poetry moment near the end of episode 13, where she's at the vending machine where it all started. How boy met girl, boy met human met vampire, and now she's the one at the vending machine ordering the booze, and then Ko appears next to her, and they have the same shot of them turning their heads towards each other, and it's animated in the same way, and I thought that was a nice little touch.
it was an absolutely great moment. I loved it. I mean, hey, great shot. Why not reuse it in a narratively impactful moment? And so I guess this brings us back to the episode, the beginning of episode 13. My first note is in asterisks Rukiko flashbacks. I'm not sure if you get that reference.
Who's Rukiko?
The trap from Steins Gate.
Yeah, I've not seen Steins Gate yet.
But anyway,
I will say
by the way,
they got me. I was
they
not,
got
I was
me
not
too.
Granted, they didn't. They were very good at. I don't know if this is a compliment or not. They didn't drop any hints. Like I have a Twitch clip saved of me watching Kimono Jihen on stream, and there's this character who is I believe her name is Akira. Oh no, his name is Akira, and yes, okay. I'm trying to. It's been a while. I think it's been a year, and I'm trying to make sure I got my story straight. Boy looks like a girl. His name is Akira, and as soon as I saw him and the way that he behaved, I instantly said in the clip, like, trap bait. It's one of those. And sure enough, like the next 10 seconds was the, hey, you're a girl, right? And it's it's that scene. And I was confirmed. I was not baited that time. But this time I was, only because I straight up did not see it coming.
And by the way, Ko, our bisexual god, he, I mean, to be fair, he might also be just Arrow Ace, but it was like, yeah, so the situation is that Hatsuka is basically like, hey, become my offspring so that you can save Nazuna. Because Nazuna's in sort of some hot water because Ko's, wondering about whether or not he should be a vampire. And the other vampires don't really like that because it's like, yo, he could spread our secret to everyone. He could tell literally the entire world about vampires and we'd be fucked. So, we're gonna kill him and you, Nazuna. And if we don't kill you, Nazuna, we'll just kill Ko. And so Hatsuka's plan in order to save Ko is, yo, become my offspring. You will become a vampire that way, and then we don't have to worry about this anymore. And Ko's like, nah. And his reasoning is not because you're a guy, and Ko even says, yo, you have a cute face. And Hatsuka blushes like, oh, I can't believe you said that. How could you say that so boldly? And Ko's explanation for why he doesn't want to become his offspring is, yo, Nazuna, perfect.
She's the fucking one.
Yeah. If it ain't Nazuna, it ain't happening.
And then by the end, they Ko and wait. Before we move on from Hatsuka, I just want to note the thing about like how Ko's like, wait, but how if I'm can't fall in love with Nazuna, how am I going to be able to fall in love with you, who I've essentially just met? And Hatsuka's like, oh, don't worry, I can trick you into falling in love with me like I do with all of my offspring. And his voice gets like this echo filter and the lighting shifts to like blood red. And as he goes on about how he's able to gaslight people and then how like romance isn't real.
That scene is so... that scene is great. Shaft-esque 2 voice filter color change. And Ko's like slightly creeped out by it, just like, I mean,
Hatsuka, of all the characters to deliver that kind of that line of dialogue, it's most appropriate that it's coming from him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And also, one more thing I want to note is that Hatsuka has this like weird pseudo family that reveres him, and
I don't think it's like I don't think it's blood family. I think it is actually offspring.
Yeah, Ko was monologuing to himself like, "Oh, are these his offspring?" They like sort of revere him, and they're excited at even the smallest passing glance that he gives them.
The girl who I thought might have been his sister, though, was like straight up ripping her hair out, like at the thought of not being able to spend time with him to Ko.
Dude, that wasn't even that wasn't even like a temporary visual gag. That is diegetic. That is canon.
You see the hair on the floor.
Yeah, like she rips it out, then it's on the floor, and it's like, oh, this actually she's literally ripping her hair out.
This is the exact kind of parasocial relationship shit that I was fearing that could happen from the result of like the last 2 episodes.
I'm just imagining Neon Manta walking down the street and talking to his friends, and he's like, poor Neon having male pattern baldness at such an early age, and Neon just looks like yeah, sucks for me, man.
And not because I donated $2,000 just to get a streamer girl to say my name.
No, Neon's just like, all right, listen,
only
man,
to find out that she got a boyfriend.
Neon's just like, all right, man, it was for cancer, all right? It was for charity, I promise.
But yeah, that's the Ko and Nazuna meet up. They have a fairly typical we're gonna make this work, you and I, despite all of the problems that may arise. No matter what we face, we will face the night together. And they have the cute shot, the big kiss, and Nazuna promises Ko that she'll become a vampire worth falling for. And we cut to the credits.
I wouldn't say it's just a typical getting together thing. I mean, it is mostly that, but I think there is a bit more depth to be had in that. All right, so what it's saying about the night, all right? So this author is clearly someone who used to find the night super fun, wanted to night pill people, and then was like, oh, by the way, you will get jaded on it. However, and in the place of the night, the author is saying, yo, the friends you make therein, that's the real grind set. You gotta make some friends, make some lovers, human connection, essentially. And that also seems to be one of the main messages of the show, and that the vampires just sort of like, all of their relationships are flings, are temporary. They don't, stay with someone. They don't form friendships except among their own kind. And the show seems to be pushing back against that by saying, yo, long-lasting friendships are based. Long-lasting romance is also very based. Do these things, And Nazuna, she literally says, like, yo, the night was boring until I met you, and then there were all these new things, and you were sort of leading me through it just as I was leading you through it. And that was fun. Even if she's jaded on the night, human connection, she likes that. She has fun with it. And I feel like the show is saying that's the worthwhile pursuit in the end.
And actually, no, I don't have anything more to add.
I think there was something else I wanted to say, but I'm trying to remember it. Oh, and also, Nazuna, Okay, so for the most part, she's sort of been at this position of being like, yo, Ko, you're my buddy, old pal, love you, man. But, not explicitly saying, like, yo, I, uh, like, she sort of leads him through the steps of falling in love with her, but she doesn't seem invested in it until this moment, where now it's like, I'm going to become a vampire worth falling in love for. Which the implication of that, either she wants to be his friend once they are vampires, or, and I think this is more likely, at this scene, she's basically internalized the idea that she wants to be his lover in the end. And
Yeah, that's what they're going for.
I definitely think that's what they're going for. And solid amount of character development. After a 13 episode season, I'd say that is a very satisfying thing to hear at the end, which is more than a lot of very long running rom-coms will get in that amount of time. So, mucho happy for that one. And other than that, I need a season 2. Need it now. Give it now. I need Itamura directing it too. I'm sure you have the money for it. This show's successful. You can probably get like
call up
a
Shinbo.
couple billion. Yeah, call up Shinbo. Shinbo could direct this. I'm sure you could sell a couple billion Blu-rays from this. Come on. Just get your act together and make season 2.
Now let me ask you this. Pretend that Dress Up Darling season 2 hasn't been announced already. If both of these shows were like in season 2 limbo, what would you say you were most desperate for a second season of?
Neon, you're gonna hate me for this. Call of the Night. Absolutely Call of the Night, no questions asked. Call of the Night, not gonna lie, kind of clears Dress Up Darling in my eyes.
God damn.
Like
This
I
man
said,
got no taste.
like I said, crunchy coded. You gotta be a slice of life, preferably a rom-com, and you gotta have that weird shit on top. Dress Up Darling, it's got the slice of life, it's got the rom-com,
And it's got the weird shit. And it's got like the
Not
most
really.
positive portrayal of a relationship in like
it does have
ever.
It does have
At least
that,
recent memory.
and it does have, the odd message here or there. It has some themes going on. So that spice, it puts it above most shows, right? I consider it super good, 7 out of 10. Did enjoy, would watch season 2, no questions asked. But Call of the Night just got, at least to me, so much more spice, so many more things it says consistently. I know you don't always agree with the way it goes about it, but for me, I found none of it outright, like, disagreeable. Even if I will agree that, like, it could have done a better job with the specific message you're talking about, it's like, to me, it's always saying interesting things. It's got great directing that just gets better as it goes on. It's just a solid, fun time. And also the supernatural elements. I really like how it incorporates them. And I'm really excited to see where the story goes. I am shocked at how much I actually like the story of the show. Even though in the first half of it, I was like more into the vibes, the characters, the comedy scenes. Now it's like, I don't just want to see more of these characters, I want to see how the story ends. And that to me is like a super exciting prospect.
I have heard that the manga, there's some like actual crazy shit that goes on in it. Which at first I didn't believe, because I going off of the first half of the show, I felt like I already knew the direction that the show kind of taken, the vibes that it would just continue to have throughout its entire runtime. But ever since mainly the introduction of Anko and how now there's a whole vampire hunter in the mix, I feel like there's gonna be some. I'm more inclined to believe that there will be some crazier developments, but odds are I'm probably not gonna read the manga by choice. I'm sure season 2 is a hair's breadth away. We're just waiting on the announcement.
If we go, let's say, until like the end of the year,
we gotta wait for the merch sales.
Yeah. If we go
gotta wait
until
for
like,
all of the Nazuna body pillows.
I'm sure they can sell a whole lot of the even more Anko ones though.
Yeah, I will be buying one myself. I will be indirectly supporting season 2's production.
If we go until the end of the year without a new, without the announcement of a new season, I'll probably start with like volume 1 of the manga, because I do own volume 1 of the manga, and I could buy.
Might as well just read that.
Well, yeah, I will read it eventually, no matter what. But like, if we go until the end of the year without a season 2 announcement, I'll probably work my way through the volumes until I catch up to where the anime was, and then continue from there if we still haven't heard about a season 2.
So what would you give it at the end? I would say I was feeling 7 before from the first half. Now literally just Anko hard carries it to an 8.
Not gonna lie, I'm gonna throw a curveball here. Light 9 out of 10.
God damn. And yet My Dress Up Darling still a 7. Ace the Kid is still a 7.
To be fair, it has been like a couple years since I've seen Eizouken. That could change if I rewatched it. Dress Up Darling just is a 7, though. That's just the correct take, Neon.
I clearly you have not seen enough Shinju art or Sajina art, whatever the lolly's name is.
It's one of your favorite shows that you keep on messing up the names.
Clockwork Orange you into. Once we strap you to the chair and keep your eyes open with the drops.
I mean, hey, maybe season 2
over and over again.
Maybe season 2 will My Dress Up Darling pill me finally. But until then, Call of the Night clears it, in my opinion. I love. If I had to sum up the appeal of Call of the Night in just a single sentence, or a single idea, something like that, it'd be that it's such an interesting stirring pot, and it's literally in the process of boiling over.
It is ending at a perfect, draw for a season 2. You got all these different what if elements going on, all running circles around in Ko's head. But now that we've got this budding romance between our two leads, now it's perfect manga bait, perfect manga baiting.
I mean, yeah, judging from how I literally want to read the manga, it's basically, at least to me, the perfect place for the season to end, and perfect season 2 hook. Like, I will be hyped for that years from now.
And it seems like that is the end of the Call of the Night podcast of the 25th episode of Castaway Anime. We are now a quarter of a way to the big 100.
I wonder when we'll actually get to the 100th episode of the podcast. How many years will that take?
Well, if we are able to continue the streak of 1 episode a week, at least probably like a year and a half. So
that is
probably
shockingly close.
2024.
All right, there you go. Be hyped for the 2024 hype of the 100th episode.
Unless we run into another Owl House situation and we cram a bunch of episodes all in 1 week.
That could happen. I wouldn't put it past us.
I guess that brings us to a close on yet another episode of Castaway Anime. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and head on down to the comments. Tell us what you thought of the show and Call of the Night. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And you'll see us next time.
Remember to stay night pill.